Welcome to State of the State. I'm John Carlevale, hosting this program. We're going to learn about the Rhode Island Forward Party, and our guests are Jim Palmisano and Sarah R. And I would say, welcome to you two for State of the State. And you're going to acquaint us with the Rhode Island Forward Party. And if all goes as you plan, Rhode Island will have a third political party. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely, John. Thank you for the invitation to come this evening.
You're most welcome. And before we get into the nuts and bolts of, I'm sure, the things that you want to talk about, and that is the Rhode Island Forward Party, I'm going to talk a little bit about third-party movements. And third-party movements are not new to America, and they're not new to Rhode Island. And I'm going to give you some examples to illustrate the point that I just made. Third-party movements in Rhode Island. 1971, the Rhode Island Libertarian Party made a move to establish itself as an officially recognized Rhode Island party. 1991, Reform 92 did the same thing. I was a member of that operation. In 1986, the Cool Moose Party was formed by Robert Healy, Jr., God rest his soul. And I had the good fortune of working with him in establishing the Cool Moose Party. But the Cool Moose Party is certainly Robert Healy, and Robert Healy only. In 1996, the Rhode Island Reform Party was established thanks to Ross Perot, who ran for President of the United States and earned 18% of the vote. Imagine that, 18% of the vote on a first run. Unheard of before and since. At the national level, 1911, the Justice Party. 1967, the Peace and Freedom Party. 1971, nationally speaking, the Libertarian Party. 1992, Constitution Party. 1996, Reform Party of the USA with Ross Perot. And here we are, 2021 and 2022, the USA Forward Party, founder Andrew Yang and Christine Todd Whitman, former governor of New Jersey. And a step behind that is 2022, the Rhode Island Forward Party. So I'm going to ask either one of you or both, why do such political party movements emerge in the first place? What prompts people like yourselves to try to establish an oppositional party?
Well, Sarah and I will play off each other. You want to? Or I'll start off. Great. Well,
by all means.
John, thank you again. So, you know, we believe that there are 50+% of people in our state alone who are not affiliated. There are a lot of people who have discontent with the way things are done today. And I always say, you know, if you're someone who's happy with the party that you're in, then that's where you should stay. But I think what we're seeing is a lot of people who are not happy with the party they're in. And as you had outlined, there are a lot of groups that we are partnering with as well that are third-party minded organizations. So that's why there's this movement, there's a need, because people are feeling that they're not being heard, that talking points are coming from the top down and not really representing or reflecting what their needs are.
And you know, you said something that often really is what begins the movement in the first place, that over a period of time, voters become a bit dissatisfied with the status quo. And when I say voters, I'm talking about Democrats, Republicans, unaffiliated, cool mooses, and it goes on and on and on. And this is what you're experiencing now, is it not? That the people that you are in contact with are saying, we have to do something.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and I'll just add to that, you know, having been in elected office and had the experience of canvassing and talking with voters, more often than not, the conversation that I was having was people who just wanted common sense and they wanted to get the job done. They didn't want to gravitate to any of the extremes in the existing parties, and they just wanted candidates who were going to do what they said they were going to do and listen to the voice of the people. That sounds like a common sense, simple request, but it's harder to have it come to fruition today. Would you agree, Sarah?
Yes, yeah. So I'm here because many people in my community just don't, they have a mistrust of the government. They don't trust the local politics. A lot of people don't want to vote. People don't want to get vaccinated. People kind of have an idea that greed and money is really what is driving politics and not the interests of the people. And so I'm here because I can sit and I can meet with somebody like Jim, somebody who prior to this I probably wouldn't have had a lot of reason to come together and talk to. And you know, I was a lifelong Democrat and Jim was a Republican for a long time, and we can come together and kind of find a medium, and we can build something from the bottom up.
You know, you said something extremely interesting as far as I'm concerned, is that you and he were brought together. It's not just you and he, but you and some others. And it's amazing how much we learn or discover that we have much more in common than we ever imagined. We assume that because someone's a Democrat and another person's a Republican, that they can never see eye to eye, because that's what it's become. But that's not the case at all. And it takes people who have a devotion to getting things done to benefit all, not just a few. And that's what our understanding is of government in the first place. At least, you know, I mean, when I went to school, elementary and secondary school, we studied civics. We learned about civics. Of course, we don't do that anymore. We don't hear about civics in the school. Fortunately, there has been some laws passed that will bring physics into the classrooms next year. And I'm feeling good about that. But it's a very, very interesting matter that when people come together because they're dissatisfied or for whatever reason, you know, they believe that our government is not moving in the right direction. It's not doing the things that need to be done to solve problems. And I heard one of your folks at the national level of the Forward Party make this statement. He was asked, what is it that you want to do with your party? And he said, we want to be the party of solving problems in this country. Wow. Do we surely need that? Because many of our people today, not just in Rhode Island, across this nation, are saying, well, why can't we fix this? We've been living with it so long. What's wrong with our government? What's wrong with our representatives that they really can't tackle this and get it done?
Yeah. Being a party that's devoted to solving problems is refreshing, and you know we do take that to heart. I think, you know, being in a big tent party, Sarah and I, coming from different political persuasions, we look where we have that overlapping concentric circle and how we can find commonality. Do I enter into that conversation and expect that I'm going to get everything that I want? Absolutely not. But compromise is a lost art. The opportunity to learn and listen. I mean, in my family, in my circle of family and friends, I feel blessed to have people that would identify themselves everywhere from a MAGA Republican to a socialist. And I've learned to discuss and learn and talk and hear and to disagree but not be disagreeable. And I think when we look at this forward party, the opportunity that we have is to pull the best ideas, irrespective of party designation, to the middle and find ways to work together to solve these problems. One of the challenges that the existing parties have today is their extreme wings oftentimes won't allow those moderate ideas to come to fruition because of differences within their own party. We don't have that limitation. We can look to the left, we can look to the right, and we can bring it to the middle and move forward.
Yeah, and your purpose is not to be the creator of all things, but to be part of getting something done that is important and needed.
Absolutely.
And that's a different, I think, value set than perhaps what has frustrated so many about where politics are today. And politics is not an evil thing, because when we look at what politicians should be doing, representing their constituents, that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. We need representation, and we often can't do it ourselves because we're busy pursuing our careers, supporting our families, helping our children grow and develop and advance. And so we look to politicians to understand us and our situation and be a mentor to getting things done. I mean, is that a fair statement?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit about the Rhode Island Forward Party's agenda. What are the handful of things that are the most important to your party at this time?
I'll let you lead off.
You should go.
Okay. So when we look at some of the electoral reforms that we'd like to see changed, mm-hmm. we are looking at ranked choice voting as an opportunity to engage the electorate. Sarah and I, we just had an event this past week where we had a really good turnout, and we did an activity with ranked choice voting to demonstrate how easy it is. And there's a couple of things that just on that electoral reform piece of ranked choice voting that why we think it's important. If you look at the percentage of voter turnout in Rhode Island, not nationally, just take Rhode Island, and you see the low numbers of turnout, people are disenfranchised. People think that either they've given up on the system or that their vote isn't going to count. One of the things about ranked choice voting, which is so compelling, is you can vote for that person, that party that you believe is the right candidate, but also know as a second choice or a third that you can put who you'd like to see should they not be successful. So I think there's a huge opportunity to get that engagement, and that's what our electoral system is about. We can't just have a small subset voting, we have to have the entire populace voting. Yes. That's one thing. The other piece about ranked choice voting is if the three of us are running for office and we are competing for the same pool of people to vote, the potential for negative campaigning decreases because we all have to be careful about alienating those people who may vote for us as a second or third choice. So that's a key electoral reform piece that we're really interested in. We're glad to see some movement in legislation that's been recently introduced at the level for primaries to start looking at ranked choice voting in Rhode Island. So that's really exciting. Other pieces that we'd be looking at would be open primaries, and also a third piece would be around any redistricting, having that be removed from party connection. So.
Well, I wonder if you could give us an example of how it would look like, and if I ask you to do something that you don't want to do, you don't do it.
Oh, sure, sure.
But how would it work at the final election, the general election where you may have a Democrat running for governor, and a Republican running for governor, and an independent running for governor, maybe, you know, someone else like a Cool Moose or a moderate party. How would that work under those sets of circumstances?
Sure. As far as ranked choice voting,
Yes.
the way it would work would be the goal is in the first round to see if a candidate gets to 50.01% of the popular vote. So if you have 4 or 5 people running, and in the first round they don't achieve that percentage, they look at the lowest vote getter of that group, and then that person drops off, and their second choice is reallocated to the remaining people. And that process continues, usually goes, say, 2 or 3 rounds maybe, until one of the candidates does achieve that 50.01% of the popular vote. So the majority of people will have in some way supported that candidate, and that person will be the one that would be selected.
So how do we know that that fourth person who's eliminated because he's the low vote getter, where his second choice or her second choice was this or that or the other thing? How do we know that?
So the technical way that we would know it, as far as how the system would work, systems that are used, we used a very simple an app called, it was a ranked choice voting app, and what it does is it tabulates that. I'm assuming that the system that would be in place would capture that information, then reallocate it. It does it pretty immediately, so we would have those results very quickly. You're not looking at the need for a runoff or a second election. So the way the technology would work would be to capture that information and then tabulate who the winner is. I think it makes a lot of sense for our statewide elections. You know, if we're looking at governor, lieutenant governor, and so on. I think where it would get more complex is when you have municipal seats of multiple people being chosen. I think that's where it gets a bit more complex. But for statewide, it's very simple and very easy, and I think we could institute it very quickly. I'd love to see that happen.
So I just want to get a little clarity, Jim. I have my ballot, and I'm voting for you, first place.
Okay.
Sarah, second place. Someone else, third place. Fourth place. I may not give a fourth.
Right.
So let's say that fourth person is dropped, but his ballot, I'm assuming it's on his ballot, doesn't have a fourth place from me, but it has a third place from a number of other people. Those are distributed according to you, and to that third person. But the third choice or fourth choice is represented on the ballot. So we're asking people, indicate who your first choice is, indicate who your second choice might be, et cetera, et cetera. And the assumption is made that voters would be willing to do that?
Yes, I think so. And Sarah, please chime in. I think there are also different there are different methodologies within ranked choice voting, so depending on the type, whether it was single winner, moving forward, and so on. So I didn't mean to overtalk.
I heard someone describe it very simply. You have somebody go to the grocery store for you, and they call you, and they're like, you said you want ice cream, what flavor? You're like, I'd really love vanilla, but if I can't have vanilla, get me chocolate. It's kind of that simple. A lot of people don't even want to vote anymore because they feel like they're voting for the lesser of two evils. And so this kind of eliminates that and gives a bigger chance for third-party voters to compete. People seem to think that if they vote for third parties, it's just going to give a party that they don't want to win, that they really don't want to win, a bigger chance. And so this levels the playing field a lot.
I like the example that you gave because it takes the politics out of it. And of course, I put the politics in my question. Well, what if I don't like a fourth choice? I'll never vote for that person. You know, and I'm not, you can't make me put someone else's name on.
John, just the other day I had great printout sheets. I should have brought them with me, so next time I'll do that for sure. We'll do a little ranked choice voting.
Well, very good about ranked choice voting. So what else do you want to talk about that's, high on your list of choices?
So one thing I think Sarah and I would love to see, we need to build our party in Rhode Island. We have a wonderful leadership team that we're bringing together to put pieces in place to move this forward. But if we're ever going to get to the point where we are getting ballot access for our party, which is a huge goal for us, we need people to join on. So that's why we've included the information of having people go. I don't know if you want me to say the website now, but
oh, absolutely.
Going to it's forwardparty.com/road_island. So if you just search for Rhode Island Forward Party, that'll bring you to the site, and you can sign up to learn more about what we're doing, get involved. Once you're signed up in the system, we'll be able to reach out to you and speak with you about how you'd like to help us build this new opportunity for Rhode Island. So that's one goal. We really want to build our group.
Yeah, and that information will be dropped in during post-production. So when they see the Forward Party, they'll also see your website, and when they'll see your name and get to know you by name as well as by sight.
Perfect.
I really think what's really special about what we're doing is that we have a bottom-up model, and so we don't have, the national team is not telling us, these are all of the things that you need to focus on and that you need to do. Fundamentally, we're trying to do something different. And so we need people to join and to bring their ideas, and to help. We need people for social media, fundraising, all kinds of things. And so we're really asking that people bring their skills, and also we're big on tolerance and big on people coming from all different walks of life. And so it's kind of amazing what we're trying to do.
Well, there's no question that you need feet on the ground when you're trying to establish a political party. It's not easy to do. There are a number of ways that one does it, and fortunately there's more than one way to do it today than there was maybe a couple of decades ago. But notwithstanding, it still isn't easy. It's not a cakewalk. You have to get the votes. For example, for gubernatorial candidates, I'm assuming that one of your goals will be to have someone run for the governor's position and earn that 5% votes. And maybe, are you exploring other ways to earn recognition and certification?
We are, absolutely. And as you've highlighted, that getting that 5% of the votes from the last gubernatorial election is one of them, right? So if we ran a candidate, got 5%, that's one. But we also could get the signatures to try to get on the ballot. Ballot placement is so important for us to be competitive, to be up there with the other two parties on the ballot. So that's another way we're looking at doing that. And in order to get those signatures, I think it would be roughly around 21,000 signatures that we would need to get the percentage from the last election. So you're looking at about 500 signatures from each municipality. So you need people in the counties, in the cities and towns to be able to get those signatures for us.
Yes. And it isn't easy. It takes a great deal of effort and planning to get that done, but it is doable. It's been done a number of times in Rhode Island, and not necessarily by a large crew of people. When you have someone who is charismatic like Robert Healy, or outstanding like Ken Block, it gets done. But it doesn't have to be. But someone may come along who says, I really like what you're doing, and I'm going to run for governor and help you get that 5% so that you're certified. It can happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It can happen. Well, what else do you want to talk about in terms of, can you say a little bit more about ballot access?
Do you want to talk? Okay. Yeah, so, being on the ballot as a recognized party is really important for us. That would be something where, when you'd go to see your ballot, you would see Forward Party at the top. As you know, in Rhode Island, when we have the ballots that are created, the recognized parties have that primary or secondary position on the ballot based on a coin toss or so. And if you are running as a non-recognized party, you're way down the bottom. And in a big field of candidates, and depending on the visibility that people look at the ballot or what they research, you can be at a huge disadvantage by not having that official ballot access. So that's one of the things for the reason for that.
And when you're an officially recognized party, that makes you the third party, and you get an opportunity for maybe first placement,
absolutely,
or a second position, because you are now officially recognized as a party. It's extremely important.
It is, absolutely.
It's extremely important. What about candidate recruitment? Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. I don't want to talk over, so we'll go back and forth with each other. So, and Sarah, that's one of the things that we've talked about is, we have like I said, a big tent party. So Sarah being from the Democrat side, being from the Republican side, and looking at issues from different sides. When we identify candidates, we want to make sure that those types of candidates really represent the big tent party on the ideas. And Rhode Island, we will have an opportunity to understand and listen to the voters of what the issues that are important for Rhode Islanders, and be able to develop that platform with the candidates that we identify here in Rhode Island. And we'll certainly be within the bounds and the parameters of what the National Forward Party is, but we're going to set our vision here in Rhode Island and identify those candidates. Hopefully, many will be watching this program and reach out and say, we want to join on. Sarah?
We're also interested in building coalitions. We're not only looking for people on the ground or candidates, we're talking to other third parties, and we're talking to other people, and to be a part of this movement, electoral reform. If you're interested in that, joining this movement, not necessarily as a forwardist, but just building a coalition is something that we're also interested in.
Yeah, and when you're talking with different people who may not necessarily have the party orientation that you have, or the point of view, I have found that you learn from other people, and that your understanding of things grows, and that makes you a better person. And sometimes, we don't pay attention to people because they don't have certain status. And I can't help but bring to mind, this happened decades ago in Connecticut. A big trailer truck went under a bridge, but the trailer truck was too high for the bridge, and went under the bridge and got jammed in there. And it had the traffic stopped, and the people were gathering around, and they were trying to figure, the engineers were trying to figure out how we're going to get this out, and they were talking about this and that, and this youngster, about 8 or 9 years old, said, "Let the air out of the tires." And the engineers looked at him and said, "Yes." They let the air out of the tire. They drove the trailer truck out from under the bridge. And normally engineers wouldn't pay attention to an 8 or 9-year-old child, but one of them said, "Son of a gun, he's got it right." And I think you have it right with that in mind, that come in, talk to us. We'd like to see you join. Share with us what you think. And probably there's more we have in common than we don't. I think that's great. Thank you so much, Jim and Sarah, for being on State of the State and sharing your vision and your devotion to what you are in the process of doing. I am one who believes it is needed, and I hope that our viewers will want to learn more about the Rhode Island Forward Party. And thank you for joining us, and please join us again next time for the next edition of State of the State.